Hello and welcome to episode 116 of Things I've Learned from Barry Harris. And today I thought we would do something, I don't know if I've done this before, but I thought we could practice together, or I could show you like how you can practice some of Barry's ideas, his concepts, and maybe it'll be helpful to you in how to put it on your instrument. So I thought we would practice today his descending half-step rules for a dominant scale. And I guess we'll use F7. We'll use F7 as the scale that we're talking about. And to briefly talk about what the rules are. So the rules for the dominant half steps descending are as follows. You have two sets of rules for when you're starting on odd numbers and two sets of rules for when you're starting on even numbers. So for instance, if I'm starting on the 1, the 3, the 5, or the 7, I'm going to have either one half step between tonic and 7 or three half steps between 3 and 2, 2 and 1, tonic and 7. That's them. So there's your half steps. Now I had to put it higher, but normally on tonic it would be this. I put it below it. But normally you're going to hit the 3 first. The 3, 2, 2 and 1, tonic and 7. So basically it's one half step between tonic and flat 7 or totally chromatically from the 3rd to the flat 7th. Now that's for the odd numbers. Now we got even numbers. So let's say 2, 4, and 6. So 2, 4, and 6 are going to also have two rules. The first rule is no half steps. Or the second rule for 2, 4, and 6, well, this is 4, and here's 6. Up. Or there's going to be two half steps between the second and the tonic and the flat 7th. Or from the second, totally chromatic, to the flat 7th. So it would be this from the second, or from the 4th, or from the 6th. Okay, so those are your basic rules. I didn't want to spend a lot of time on that, but that's the basic rules. Now, let's practice them, okay? So here's going to be a practice. I'll put a metronome on 120, and we're going to do everything once. So when we have an odd number, we're going to do the first rule, and then we'll do the second rule. Same thing with the even number. We'll do the first rule and then the second rule. So for the odd number, the first rule is one half step. Second rule is three half steps. For the even number, the first rule is no half steps. The second rule is two half steps. So let's try it. F7, starting from F. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we'll start on the second. Let's say no half steps. Now we'll do second, two half steps. 3, 1. 3, 3. 4, none. 4, 2. 5, 1. 5, 3. 6, none. 6, 2. 7, 1. 7, 3. Okay, so now we'll do them without me talking through it. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. That last one I messed up on the 7th. So that's the first rules of the half step, which are great. Now you got to get those in your fingers because obviously when you're playing, it has to just come out naturally. So the only way to do it is to practice it like that, as far as I can see, is to practice it like that till it really becomes part of you where you're just feeling it. Oh, okay, Because when you're playing, you don't have to say, oh, well, I'm on the second, so I can either use no half steps or two. You don't have time for that. You have to be able to just do it. The second rule of these, which is great, is if you start on one of the descending notes and run up to any other note of the scale, you're going to use the rule for the note you started on. So for example, if I'm on F, which is the tonic, and I run up to the second, I'm still going to use, when I descend back down, I'm still going to use the rule for the tonic. So 1/2 step. Really pretty. Now if I run up to the third and come back down, I can use still 1/2 step. Or in this instance, I can use 3/2 steps, because that's still one of the rules for 1. Now if I start on second, let's start on the second, and I'll say no 1/2 steps. So now I'll start on the second, run up to the third, still no 1/2 steps. Run up to the fourth. Now I'll do 2/2 steps. So I'll start on the second, 2/2 steps. Now I'll start and run up to the third and run back down and still use 2/2 steps, which is really pretty. Well, maybe I'll run up to the fourth. Maybe I'll run up to the fifth, sixth. But do you see how each time I'm still putting in the 2/2 steps? So you can come up with, look. Pretty phrase, right? And I'm just starting on the second and running up to different degrees. So this stuff has to be practiced. So let's practice that. I'll start on the tonic. Let's say I'll run up to the second, run up to the third, run up to the fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh. See how nice that is? Now I'll start on the second. And I'll do, let's go right to 2/2 steps. Let's see. 2/2 steps. Up to the fifth. Sixth. Aren't those pretty? Really pretty stuff. Now, you do that from every degree. Second, third, fourth, keep going. You start on every degree. You can run up. You come up with a million different phrases. The next rule for the 1/2 steps is if you start on a note and you go up a third, so directly up a third, so like if we started on F, you went up to A. That's going to be 1 and, which means the next note you hit, usually descending, will be the note of the rule that you follow. So if we said F, A, now the next note is going to be G, which is a second, which we know already is no 1/2 steps or 2/2 steps. So now you got this. Pretty. Or maybe we'll do 2/2 steps. Pretty stuff. Now if we start on the second and we jump up a third to the fourth, the next note descending is the third, which is going to get either 1/2 step or 3/2 steps. Or 3. So let's do a couple of those. Let's see. 2, 3, 4. See how pretty that is? Again, those are things that you would never think to practice unless you were just specifically working on 1/2 step rules. And all those are perfect in creating lines. Think about all the options you have. It's limitless. Now that's if you go up a third. There's another rule. If you go up a triad, so let's think a triad from the F, F, A, C. Now it's going to be 1 and 2. So that last note is going to be on a downbeat, which means we're going to follow the rule for that last note, which happens to be the 5th. So that means we're going to say, okay, that's 1/2 step. So we'll say Or we could say 3 half steps. Also beautiful. So let's try those. So again, on each triad, I'm gonna do triad up from each degree, and we're gonna see what happens. Again, so the first one's gonna be ends on an odd. The second one ends on even. The third one ends on an odd. Fourth one ends on even. So we're gonna have all these different variations. Let's try it. Let's just try a couple. 1, 2, 3, 4. Or oh, sorry. Or so you see, and so on. So all those you're gonna use all those. All those you're gonna use. Now let's do a chord up. If you go up a chord, 1 and 2, and it's the same as a third where you're ending on and. So the next note you hit, descending or ascending, but let's do descending, would be the 6th, which means you're gonna follow the rule for that note. That was 2 half steps, or I could have done none. And so on. So see, then you practice those. You do the same thing. You put the click on and then just practice them. These are so fantastic to look at. And then as guitar players, you look at F7 here. But you also have to look at it here, starting on the pinky. So you do your half step rules. Second, no half steps. Second, 2 half steps. 3, 1. See, now I'm doing it in this position, but then you do the same thing in this position, and you do the same thing in this position, and you just get comfortable with them. And these are really like totally by brute force. You just say, okay, I have to just practice these and get them really comfortable in my hand. I think I'm going to make a couple of these where we just practice together. Not necessarily creating lines as much as just thinking about practicing the nuts and bolts of a lot of this stuff, because I think it's helpful. Anyway, until next time, I enjoyed our practice session. Get on it.